Well, listeners, there is a brand new album coming out that is delivering a very, very big sound. This is a band that's been put together, and I suppose you could call it a supergroup. They're called Category 7, and this is an absolutely amazing album. And we're lucky enough today to actually get the man himself, John, on the phone to chat about this album. Welcome to the program, mate.
What's happening, dude? I'm here in Los Angeles and here to talk about the Category 7 record. I don't know if I'd like to use the term super group. I don't know. I think that's, how about just like a group of a bunch of veteran musicians? Yeah, it's still a really exciting time, and it's a great record. But thank you for the nice accolades.
No worry. It's always I always find it such a weird title, like, and it comes across, as a music journalist, it comes across our desk a lot, where you get a press release and it's like, this is a super group, and it's like, I just like to judge music for music. It's like, so I'm glad that it kind of, it's not a term that you're all that comfortable with as well, because I'm not comfortable with it either.
That's funny. Yes, I'm probably pretty uncomfortable with it, to be honest. But yeah, because it creates this kind of almost too high of expectations. Certainly, all the guys in this band are veterans and have played around for many years in different type of groups, and have a lot of experience under their belt. But that being said, it's a really powerful set of songs, and everybody's real excited about it.
So, John, I understand that you were kind of the last piece in the puzzle for Category 7, that the guys had already got together and done a little bit before they contacted you. Tell us a little bit about how that approach came to you and how you felt when that approach first came through to you.
Yeah, I mean, Phil Demmel is a guy who contacted me and said, we were doing this thing, him and Mike Orlando, which Mike I didn't even really know at all, which was kind of funny because it's cool to kind of, him and we wrote a bunch of these songs together, a lot of the music, without even really knowing one another, which I thought was kind of, in the long run, really, really cool, because it was showing that everything was kind of based on just music, which was neat. But yeah, Phil contacted me and he said, would you be interested in this project? I'm writing some songs and it would be cool to hear your voice on it. And I said, well, I don't know. You have to send it to me and let me listen to it and see not only if I like it, but also if it's something I feel like I can, do worthy in writing to. And so he sent it, and I was like, wow, this is pretty scorching stuff. It's very powerful, very heavy, and I felt like I could do something with it. So I started writing, and next thing we know, we had a couple songs done, and so we kept writing to more songs, and next thing we knew, we had like enough for a record. So we said, okay, let's make an album. Why not?
Now, you just said that you didn't know some of the guys. So what was that moment like when you guys all got together and like to meet each other as well? Like, that must have been a pretty special moment for you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I knew Phil because we do things together with Metal Allegiance, which is kind of like an all-star thing with a bunch of different people, Mike Portnoy and Dave Ellison and Mark Mengy put it all together. And I did one song on one of their records. And Phil and I played together live with that. I met Jack probably a couple times in Exodus. Same with Jason Bittner. I knew him from just around the scene. Mike was the one guy who I'd never met before. But it was, like I said, the cool thing about all this and all the guys is everybody is a veteran. Nobody is too concerned about their place in heavy metal and what their contributions have been. So everyone's very secure, and it's been great. Everyone's just happy to be part of it, and we all think that we got something pretty awesome here. So it's a humbling thing, really.
So just going back to when the music got sent through to you, what was it about that music that made you want to say yes? Was there something special there that really got you over the line?
It's funny with me, and I'm not trying to say this from any kind of arrogant perspective at all, but for a long time after I went back to Saint after leaving Anthrax, I was quite content with just doing that for a long time. And it's funny, these days a lot of people are in lots of projects. It's just kind of a new development with a lot of people in the music business, not just metal, all kinds of styles. And I was just content with doing Saint, but a couple things came my way, and I really didn't take part in it except for the one song on the Metal Allegiance record. But I was when Phil asked me, I was like, oh gosh, how am I going to tell this guy I don't want to do this? Because I really like Phil as a person. And so then I mean, I don't know. This is like, that was probably my mindset of like, okay, send it to me. And then thinking, okay, I won't like it. And then I was like, whoa, this is really slamming. And I was really shocked. Not that I'm shocked that they are capable of doing it by any means, but it's just, I always feel like I want to do less and more. And it's funny because right now I'm doing more than I've ever done in my life. And it's a little daunting. But in any case, the music just was undeniable. It was very powerful. There was some great riffs. There's very well crafted songs, great spaces for vocals. And so it was like, okay, I mean, this is awesome. Let me see what I can do with it. Then it was up to me to see whether or not I could actually take it to another level myself. And it became a challenge, and I was excited to kind of face it. And the songs are pretty strong.
Yeah. How do you face a challenge like that? And like it almost sounds there like you felt that you had to go to another level as well. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, what I've been telling people is that the key for me is just to not repeat myself. I think that's the goal, is to try to do something that's different that I've ever done, with Armored Saint, with even My Ears and Anthrax. It's still metal, so you want to try to come from a different perspective, but I am who I am. My voice is my voice. So I think it's really just pushing yourself to make sure you don't repeat yourself is what I've been saying lately. And to not write some of the same lyrics, not do a melody that kind of sounds like something you've done before. That's the big challenge. And, I think for the most part, I did really, really well with that. And luckily, I didn't really have much writer's block. Things kind of flew out of me rather simply. So I was happy about that. It could be challenging to have all that in your mind and say, okay, don't just sound like you're kind of rehashing yourself. Make sure you push yourself in a way where it sounds a little different and sounds like you're, like I said, taking yourself to the next level. I think I did it pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. So what kind of things were inspiring you when you sat down to work on the lyrics for this one?
Just the world around me. It's impossible not to see, on a daily basis what's happening in the world and the developments with various things, to not get inspired to write some lyrics, and I'm no exception to that. I mean, anything from technology to division to to personal things. It's pretty easy to write lyrics these days, and there's a plethora of ideas out there. So just waking up and well, I still love reading the newspaper. It's kind of like a dying industry, which is a shame, because nothing better for me. Maybe this is a little too much information, but see the paper on the toilet with a cup of coffee, that's like one of my happy places right there. So it's pretty inspiring.
Yeah, definitely. It's the morning train for me, going into work of a morning and reading your paper on the morning train. That's my way. But bringing it back
That's
to
great.
yeah, bringing it back to the music. I read a quote from Mike saying that he wanted this album to be about big verses and big songs. Was that something that you all talked about when you first started to work on the music for this album?
There wasn't really like I asked some questions about arrangements or perhaps a couple of musical things that was going on when I started working on the lyrics, but and the melody ideas. But I don't think we had like some kind of origin of ideas where like this is the direction and we have to go this direction and this is what it feels like. I think the songs, you kind of just write them and let them kind of develop on their own. And I think that's just the best way to do it. I certainly had some questions about possible timing and arrangement, like I said, and what part is this? It sounds like a bridge? Is there going to be a lead here? Is this a vocal idea? But other than that, I don't think that we thought too deeply about where we wanted to go. I mean, it was quite obvious, certain songs, just what the style was, and most of it was just very heavy and powerful.
Yeah. One of the things I loved about this album was you kind of didn't know what to expect next. Like there's an instrumental song on there. You've got the slightly slower track like Land I Used to Love, and then you've got songs like Exhausted that are just in your face. Tell us a little bit about that. When you sat down to work on these songs, was that something that you were aware of, that they were also different to each other?
I worked on a couple at a time, and once I did worked on a couple and then demoed them, I said, okay, send me a couple more. I don't want to listen to like 9 songs because that's just too overwhelming. It's a couple at a time, and that's what Mike would do. He would send me a couple, and then I'd go, okay, I have an idea for this one, so I'm going to run with this one. And then I would write some words and come up with some melodies. And once the song was pretty close to what I thought, I went to a friend of mine's house, and he actually has a Pro Tools system, and he recorded demos with me. And I actually have another project with him separately, so it's kind of funny. And the project I have with him is like this blues country thing. So one day I would be working with him on his project, which is really fun and cool, and then the next day I would be working on a Category 7 song, and it was great because I had all these ideas, and within like a span of like 6 to 8 months, I feel like I wrote like 20 songs, and that was just really helpful as a writer to be able to do that. And both things were vastly different. And my buddy Tara, who's a guitar player in that band, which is called Electric Spaghetti, he's not metal at all. He comes from like a rockabilly world, and he'd hear these songs of Category 7, he's like, man, this is insane, dude. And it was really cool because he was inspired, and that inspired me to work on it, and it was all fun.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about the recording process for this album as well. How did that work? Did you kind of all record your parts separately? Did you head into the studio all at the same time? How did that work for you?
Yeah, it's most of it was all done separately because that's how a lot of bands work these days. Everybody lives in different cities, so and everyone had different schedules. Like I said, I did a lot of the demos, and then I would send them back to Mike, and then he would mix it. Eventually, I went back to Mike's house in Staten Island and stayed there for about 7-8 days, and we re-recorded some vocals and added some vocal parts and worked in his studio, which was great and fun. That's when I got to know him, because prior to that, I was the one guy I didn't know at all. But yeah, a lot of things are made that way these days when people live abroad, and it's unusual. It's certainly not the typical way a band kind of develops in a rehearsal studio, and but that's the way things go sometimes. And at the end, it's just really about the end result. If it's great, it's great. It doesn't really matter how it's created, as long as it's effective and sounds sincere. And I think this does.
Definitely. So, John, I guess this is a question for the young musicians out there. As a songwriter, now when you get an idea for a song, because you are in so many different projects and bands, how do you know when you start writing a song now, which project or band that song's going to be for?
Well, I'm writing the music of the person that's giving it to me. That's one way. I mean, Joey Vera and I have a relationship with songwriting that's just extremely strong, and an unbreakable bond that we have, and with Armored Saint. And I think what I've always said is, for me, I try to gravitate to the musicians. I'm not a great player. I can kind of keep a Frank Beard beat on drums. That's not going to sound very good. Play a tiny bit of bass because it's an easier instrument than guitar. I'm just not good. I really have always concentrated on writing lyrics and singing. So I gravitate to the musicians who are writing songs for me, and I let that kind of embellish my thing. And as I said, I just try to make sure that I'm not repeating myself, which at this point, especially in the world of metal, is not easy. You got to check yourself a lot and go, okay, does that sound like this song? Maybe a little bit. And did I use that word? Let's see if I can find a different word that's kind of the same meaning. That's what I like to do. I really try to push myself in that direction. And I probably have repeated myself a little bit here and there, but not too often.
Definitely not, yeah. So this album comes out on July 26. Where to then for the band? Are you hoping to get out and do some shows? What are the plans going forward for Category 7?
Yeah, I don't know yet. I think we're just kind of letting stuff develop on its own. We've released a couple videos. We're going to release another video in the beginning of July, and they're kind of generating a buzz in its own way, and I think that's kind of fun and exciting. So I don't know. I don't really know about live performing yet and where that's going to take place and when. I don't think it's. Of course, it would be fun to play these songs live, but I do think it should be the right scenario and not just go out and, get in a band and do 25 shows in the U.S. and just because we want to play. I think because everybody's in different bands and different projects and had a certain level of how they toured and played, I think, not that we're spoiled, but I don't know. I think that's going to kind of determine a lot of what we do and how we do it. So I don't expect us to go out and be supporting somebody in arenas right away, but it should feel like the right shows.
Definitely. Now, to finish off, because we're running right out of time, what would you like to say to people out there who on July 26th are going to sit down and take a listen to this album for the first time?
Well, obviously, if they're interested in this, they probably have heard a couple songs already, so that kind of set a tone a little bit. But I'd say certainly go into it with an open mind, and see what it does for you, and just try to be just kind of let the music do the talking for you, and have this broad state of mind, and see what you think. I'm real excited and curious as to what people think.